What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing another video react, but before we do, don't forget you can join my community. See, if you become a member, you'll get all the exclusive only Evildea fan stuff. Just hit that join button, trust me. You can get lots of videos where I play video games in different languages with different YouTubers. I also just do random off-the-cuff blogs about different things. And if you haven't hit the join button and you don't intend to join, just go hit it. Just go watch that video. Just watch the video that comes associated with the join button. Don't have to join. But after seeing that video, you'll want to join. Okay, so we're going to be reacting to a video that was recommended by one of you guys out there. Okay, let me just find it. It's from CraigX7X60. Please react to the best flashcard to immersion ratio for fluency by Jeremiah Language Ideas. He says to spend more time with flashcards than immersion, then we got that action. I'm a little bit slow to this one. I did see the thumbnail for that video, never got around to watching it, and I've seen other YouTubers have already done reacts to it. Bro, you're stealing my space. Come on, back the fuck off, okay? I'm the react guy in the language space. You go find your own shit, okay? Anyway, let's go watch his video. So here he is. I'm on his channel. And where is it? This is the best method to teach you. What was the name of the video again? It was called The Best Flashcard. Okay. The best flashcard. Where's she at? Where's she at? Oh, there it is. I thought for a second it wasn't there anymore. Okay, hello, Jemima. I know you watch my videos. In fact, he reached out to me before on Discord. Overall, I enjoy his content. It's pretty good. I've disagreed in some videos. I think like one subtitling video, but overall, it's pretty good content.
Input to flashcard ratio. I feel like this is such an important question for anybody at any stage of learning a language, and yet I don't think I've directly talked about it that much on this channel. So here we go. I think this is super important for you. So in my opinion, I think I have a little bit of a hot take here. It, of course, depends on your goals, just like everything with language learning, right? It depends heavily on your goals. But I'd say for most people, you're probably better off with the majority of your time with the language being spent with flashcards. I know.
That is definitely a hot take.
I know. It sounds crazy, right? But hear me out, okay? So if you're making flashcards in the right way, which is you're making them I+1, which means that in every flashcard, there's only one element in that card that you don't understand. That turns that flashcard into comprehensible input, right? If there's like 5 words on the card that you don't understand, then
okay, so I'm just going to quickly present my thoughts before I let him present his, so you can see if there's a difference or if we agree overall. I'm going to say flashcards are like taking a sniper rifle to the language, okay? You're picking out a certain aspect of the language and you're hyper-focusing in on that, learning that, so that when you get flooded with the language later on, you've got something to grab onto, okay? Yes, they provide comprehensible input because they have to be comprehensible for you to actually get from them. But if you're spending the majority of your time on flashcards, what's going to happen is the time that you spend actually to build out those flashcards and then to review them, you're going to get a lot out of that. You will. You'll actually make pretty fast progress. The problem is you will burn out so goddamn fast. Like, I've met very, very few people who can do more than 40 minutes to an hour of flashcards per day. There are people out there, and if you're one of them, you know you are, okay? But you will burn out eventually. You miss a day, boom, the reviews build up. Because like if we're doing the vast majority of our study via flashcards, that means potentially 100 flashcards a day, okay? Like you would have to be to make actual progress if you were doing mainly flashcards. So that means within a week or so, you're going to get like at least 500 reviews, assuming that you remember the majority of it. 500 reviews every day, you're looking at 1.5 hours. I know, I've done these tests. I've gone down this route, tested this crazy shit before myself, okay? So it's, even for me, a guy who loves flashcards, there comes a point, usually after a month, where I'm like, Elmo, pass me the rope, I'm gonna neck myself. It just becomes too hardcore, okay? So I go through periods where I up the number and I'm like, bro, just chill the fuck out. Pull it back down. Get realistic, and then I pull it back down. And I know when you're sitting there and you're watching input, you're like, man, this would be so much more efficient if I just was doing a bunch of cards, because I guarantee you with every single card I'm learning something or I'm practicing something I know. But you also need to let your brain just sit there and see these things in all their myriad of beautiful contexts, okay, in order to create all those connections. Flashcards are to get the hook into your brain, and then the content is to actually build out all the web of connections that are around it, okay?
you're just wasting your own time. It's just too difficult. And at that point, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. You're not getting that much out of it. You're not getting as much of it as you think you are. It's almost like paradoxical, because if you're inexperienced with language learning, you might think that the more unknown things you have on your flashcards, the more you're going to learn, but it's not the case. It doesn't turn out like that. Trust me, I've tried.
With every flashcard, you only want to have one unknown on that card, and that is the thing you're trying to learn.
I've been there. The best thing to do is have only one unknown element, maybe two is really pushing it. If it
Yeah, you can. Like, if the second unknown is like, it's unknown because you haven't encountered it before, but like it's now obvious to you from context what it means, then fine.
like for certain sentences, and I've talked about that on the channel before, but one unknown element on each card is the best. So that makes the card comprehensible, right? And you also want to make sure it's a whole sentence on the card, not words, because learning words out of context is really, really difficult to translate into real fluency, right?
I agree with that. You want to do it in context. I'm going to go complete random, do the whole thing Evildea does, where he just points out something random. Is it just me? Or does every YouTuber now, in the background, usually have like beautiful lighting and colors and stuff? Like it'll be like blue or red or something like that. And then you got me. I got a goddamn freaking cream wall with whatever the fuck that is over in the corner there, okay? But everyone else has got like good lighting, or at least better lighting than me.
It just makes it so much harder because very rarely in the real world, unless it's like a word like yes, no, maybe, something like that, like almost every time you hear a word, it's going to be in the context of a sentence. And so by learning words in the context of a sentence, you're able to more easily grasp their meaning. And on top of that, you're able to learn how to use it more naturally, right? And it has much more direct carryover to your language fluency in the future, and even to your listening comprehension, right? Because that's how you're going to be comprehending words in the future. And so it's really important to have those two elements in place, I+1 and entire sentences. Once you have that structure in place, now your flashcards become comprehensible input, right? And so that's where things get a little bit confusing now, because now that your flashcards are comprehensible input, you require much less time just spent watching content, right? And that's really what I really wanted to talk about, like the time of consuming content.
There's a time cost involved with building out flashcards, though. You kind of need to account for that. Now, I will say that on a minute-by-minute basis, you get more value out of flashcards than you do by input. But there is an upper limit to how many flashcards the average human being is capable of doing, okay? Even for someone like me who loves flashcards. When you start going beyond an hour, you can do that for a period of time. If you start going to like 2 hours, you can do that for a period of time. Some people, they can keep doing that for a long time. Most people they'll eventually just exhaust them. And then what will usually happen is they'll get so annoyed, so angry, they'll delete the whole freaking thing. And then they'll just be like, well, that fucking sucked. Didn't work. And it was working. It's just, you're just doing too much in one day. Like, I know we want fast progress, and flashcards do provide a boost. They're like the nitro to your language learning. But you have to accept the fact that this will take a long time at the end of the day. Now, I don't know if he disagrees with me or not there. I just want to stress that if the majority of your time is spent on flashcards, you've probably now crippling yourself in multiple different ways.
To using flashcards, what's that type of ratio going to look like? Now, with that being said, I'm only talking about hours here that you have dedicated specifically to language study. So like if you're like obviously driving to work, obviously you're going to listen to a podcast. And if you're going to be driving to work, let's just say for you personally, your commute is 1.5 hours to and from work. So 3 hours total every day. Obviously, you might not have 3 hours total to be spending on flashcards. So obviously,
so that driving to work example there, where you're listening to a podcast, I would consider that somewhere between active and passive listening. Because I don't know about you guys, but like if you drive here in Sydney, some people are fucking crazy, bro, and you gotta pay attention to the road like a lot, and that means you're not focusing on that podcast. So it's like that time is I would consider it somewhere between passive and active listening.
In that case, your listening to flashcard ratio will be off. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about here is the situation where you have 2 hours to sit down and actively study the language. In my opinion, very little of that time should be spent just sitting down and watching content. The majority of that time should be spent grinding flashcards in a way that's optimal for your goals. For example, if you have 1.5 hours of active study available to you for Japanese, right? And your main goal is to increase your reading comprehension, I would recommend spending at least an hour of that time, of that 1 hour and a half, doing flashcards related to your reading comprehension, whether that be like reading cards, kanji cards, whatever that looks like for you. And then the next half an hour would be just like free flow reading or something like that, right?
This really depends on where you are in your journey. And also that, like if I had an hour and a half, okay, let's look at each language. Okay, let's say for Esperanto, an hour and a half, I'm already an advanced speaker. I'm not going to do any flashcards. if I'm studying for, let's say, like a specific exam, maybe a C2 exam, maybe then I'll do like 10 minutes of flashcards, of like very bespoke specific words that I just, for whatever reason, they're just difficult to pick up, okay? For Mandarin Chinese, I'm going to be spending 30 to 40% of my time on doing flashcards, okay? That way I can get a lot more words into my head and keep pushing that intermediate plateau, basically. Keep pushing through it. But I still need a lot of content in order to cement everything I've been doing. That is still crucial. And if you look at my LingoPie series, which is not exactly a flashcard series, it's more me using a specific service, you can see how much study time I do. It varies anywhere from like 5 to 15% for that series. But if I wasn't doing that series, I'd probably do more study time. Now, for, let's say, Spanish, if I was randomly right now to stop doing ALG, I would probably put in a shite ton of flashcards for a short period of time, for the next month or two, in order to get in a lot of those words that I still have not got through immersion. And I'd probably focus mainly on production cards. So it's like, again, this is one of those things where I can't give you a specific recommendation about what percentage and ratio you need, because it's a feeler in the moment. You got to be like, okay, well, I'm watching a lot of content. I feel like I'm not making progression. Maybe I should do more cards, to try and get some more words into my brain. Or maybe I keep hearing these words, but they just keep escaping me from context. Okay, they're going to go into the flashcard system. Or maybe you're on a roll and you've done so many flashcards and all these words that you've done, they're popping up in content, but you're not hearing them. Why is that happening? Maybe it's a type of flashcard, or maybe you just literally need to just do some more content. You need to get used to listening to the language. So there's no perfect golden ratio.
With listening, same thing. Let's just say you're learning Korean and you really want to improve your listening. Then you would spend, if you have 2 hours, let's just say, maybe you would spend an hour and a half of that active time doing listening flashcards, right? Where you're increasing your vocabulary, you're doing a bunch of reviews, all this stuff. You're really listening to sentences.
I love listening flashcards. They're really, really good. Again, though, it depends at your level, what your tolerance is for this type of thing. I do have a great video on my channel about listening flashcards if you want to go look for that. Editor, if you can find that, just put a link over there.
To make sure that you heard it properly and all that stuff, right? You're really spending an hour and a half doing listening-based flashcards with no text on the flashcards at all. It's entirely based on your listening ability. You're listening, and then the last half hour is going to be spent just listening to the language. Maybe you just watch a show with no subtitles.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they kind of forget that there is different types of flashcards. So you've got listening flashcards, you've got production flashcards with close, you've got reading flashcards, for a language that doesn't use a standard Latin script that most of us are used to. There's also other types of flashcards, like you can have template ones based around certain grammar structures. So you have multiple cards for the same type of templated grammar structure, but you're just swapping out different components. So, there's actually many ways to do flashcards.
Most people, if they have 2 hours that they're dedicating to studying Korean, they will spend half an hour doing audio flashcards and then an hour and a half just watching content.
So what he's talking about here is someone who's obviously primarily focused on getting to understanding in the language as fast as possible.
I'm saying the opposite, an hour and a half of the audio flashcards and half an hour watching content. And
I don't know at any point in the journey where that would be a valid thing to do. Even at the very, very beginning, I would say, if I was to start out with a language right now and my focus was on listening only, I would generate a small number of listening flashcards for the most frequent words I'm most likely to hear and not be able to pick up from context, i.e. words like just, because, the pronouns. Rather than adding lots of cards, you want to get good at adding cards that are of the most value to you at that time. Because I fell into this trap a while ago as well, where it's I'm just going to add a card for everything. Because it seems logical. If you have a card for everything, you know everything, right? There is too much to know and to add into flashcards. So instead, you need to hyper-focus in on what's good. And I've spoken about this in a previous video where I talk about, the method I would recommend for a certain type of individual. This seems almost to be that type of instance in a way. Again, you wouldn't want to be doing this based on frequency lists. You'd be doing this based on the type of content you're absorbing, etc.
Trust me, your abilities will improve so much faster. I have done this in both Vietnamese and Japanese. And with both of those languages, relative to the goals that I was using these flashcards for, I tried both ways. I tried majority input, minority flashcards, and I tried majority flashcards, minority input. And I found that in both languages. I was at different levels too with both languages. With Vietnamese, I'm already fluent. I'm just still learning to get more fluent. And with Japanese, I'm like basically beginner level, maybe low intermediate.
I'm already fluent, but I'm just getting more fluent. It's kind of an interesting phrasing here. I'm actually curious, like, how good is your Vietnamese or his Vietnamese? Like, has he posted any videos? I have no idea. There's actually very few people who are learning Vietnamese, so it'd be good to get an idea of that.
Right? And so with both languages, even though they're completely different, even though my level in those languages is completely different, I found that no matter what, I always progress faster when the majority of my time, my active time with the language is spent doing more flashcards. And again, before I end this video, I really want to just clarify, it has to be the right kind of flashcard study. If your main goal is to get better at listening to the language and you're doing cards with words on the front, like reading on the front, right? And it's just one word in isolation, your listening ability will not improve that much. You will get way better listening improvement via just watching shows, right? You will just get way better listening improvement from that. However, again, you have to make the cards intelligently and you have to follow the instructions, right? Like if your main goal is listening improvement and you only have audio on your cards, no words, and you're listening to the entire sentence, you're listening to it sometimes multiple times to make sure you can understand it instantly. You're even like listening and repeating to make sure you can say it too, to make sure you really heard it properly, all this stuff. And you're really like properly doing the listen and repeat, and you have one sentence with only one unknown element in that sentence, and you're doing that for the majority of your time, I'm telling you, you're going to improve so much faster.
Okay, so here's my response to that. The recommendations around how to use flashcards are very good here. The ratio of immersion versus flashcards, audio flashcards, I cannot definitively say that if I did 80% flashcards and then, like 60% flashcards or 40%, just straight up watching content, that would be better versus 60% content and 40% flashcards. Because I have not run those specific tests. However, I have done previously large amounts of flashcards, and I do find you do make rapid progress initially. However, you quickly exhaust yourself. So if you have the capability to long-term tolerate that, there may be more benefit to it. However, what you will start to suffer at is all those little interconnectors where you just can't cover off in the flashcards. What might actually be better is having, for a period of time, a large flashcard input and then swapping over to another period of time, a large input era. So, and then like doing this, maybe that would be more beneficial, because then you can like work on getting a whole heap of words into your brain, and then you can spend a good amount of time just reinforcing all those words via input. And then once you've reinforced all that, then you can swap over to getting a whole heap of words in your brain. And I'm just playing with ideas at the moment, but I'm not sold on the idea that doing a whole heap of flashcards as compared to like more flashcards compared to input is actually provable to be better, even for the right types of flashcards, just based on my own experiences. But I have not run this specific test. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say on this. I know you guys are probably wanting me to like fire one way or the other to say, no, Jeremiah is completely wrong, or yeah, man, go for it, Jeremiah is completely right. It's hard to say, because this is like one of those things where it's like, unless you've run both those tests for you as an individual, you can't really say. But I can assume based on what I have done in the past. But I've always, like, if I've upped my number of flashcards in the past, like let's say I did an hour of flashcards a day, I've always I've upped the amount of input. Like, it's never been like, I got 2 hours and I'm going to push this and then this goes down. Like, it's never been that. It's like, if I've got 2 hours and I decide to do like 1 hour of flashcards, well, then I'm going to try and do 2.5 hours of input. Like, like I've always tried to keep input ahead of flashcards. Yeah, that's my thoughts on the matter. Let me know down in the comments section what you guys think. If you've enjoyed this react, also go, by the way, guys, I got a membership. Go hit that join button. If you join, there's special pictures for you, just for you. And I'll see you all in the next video. And if you're not there, well, my boys, I'm going to make you do flashcards until your eyes bleed.